Part two, y'all. Part two of me reacting to the Luka trade. Because the first video I kind of went over the historical precedents, how shit like this is probably never going to happen again in NBA history. Or not, you know what I mean. I'm tired. I said I wasn't going to go to bed. I'm the biggest liar on the internet. I'm hitting the hay as soon as I get done recording this. Is this, I don't know if I've heard anyone else bring this up. Is this a product of the second apron? Now, you maybe ask yourself, how could that be? How's that possible? Well, think about it, right? One of the main reasons the Mavericks didn't want to trade Luka was why? Because of his, what? His max contract extension that he was going to get. We are currently in an era where if you don't feel confident, if you don't feel 1,000, 1 million, trillion% confident that you can win a championship with your best player, it has never been more taxing to hold on to that asset if you don't win. In years past, this is a no-brainer. It's Luka Doncic. Give him 5 years, 345. It may be an instance of Nico Harrison thinking a little too much, right? Sometimes when you're playing chess, you're trying to think 4 steps ahead and you lose anyway because you're thinking too much. It might be a case of that. But after I got done recording that video and I was ramming the Mavs, I tried to think about it from their perspective. Clearly, even though I heavily disagree, clearly they are in the mindset that Luka Doncic isn't good enough to win them a championship, which that statement alone, I think it's very wrong, but whatever. Let's do a thought exercise and think about this through Nico's perspective. His team makes the finals last year. They go on a run. They beat the Clippers. They beat Oklahoma City. They beat Minnesota. In convincing fashion, they beat all 3 of those teams. They beat all 3 of them as 6 or less. And they beat the shit out of Minnesota. It was embarrassing. And you get to the finals, and you're going against a team in the Boston Celtics. Like I said in the first video, Jason Tatum. And I think that was short-sighted on my part to just bring up Jason Tatum. Because the rest of that bunch can play some fucking defense. And they're the best in the league at it. They were last year, not this year. This year, they're kind of struggling a little bit. They had a game winner against the Pelicans, but talking about last year. He probably saw that Luka's weaknesses come out, if you want to call them that. The game 3 was the biggest example of this. And I think the gears might have started turning the night the Celtics won game 5. I think. I don't think he was thinking about doing this trade in, a month and a half ago. I just don't. I think the gears in his mind were going in June last year on what is the ceiling of this team. And then, like I said in the beginning of this video, in the current era of second apron, losing draft picks, losing the ability to sign minimum contracts, we first started noticing stuff like this, like when the Karl-Anthony Towns trade happened. I cited on the pod, I said, this is a signal of the second apron salary cap. That's the number one reason they made that trade, in my opinion. Because Cat, in their head, and then the eyes of management in Minnesota, They believed he wasn't producing the same as his contract. That's what they believed. And they traded him because of it. We just have never seen... We always think that the superstars are the exception. That it doesn't matter. You just pay the $345 5 years. It doesn't done deal. There's no negotiating there. I always used to joke, and I was in high school and middle school, I always used to joke that, like, being LeBron's agent must be really easy. If we're talking about strictly the basketball stuff, it must be really easy because his contracts are really easy to negotiate. Maybe not LeBron. That's a bad example because he used to sign like one-year deals. But you get the point. Being an agent of a superstar basketball-wise is a very easy job because there's not much, the max contract is the max contract. And you're going to get it. The only differences between the contracts being certain incentives. And superstars don't really get a lot of incentives in their contract. So it was just a no-brainer. Like, oh, Luka 5 for 345, cool. It wouldn't have even... If history played out differently and the Mavs kept Luka... Not even that. Now that he's on the Lakers, I'll use that. In a year and a half, when he's up for the contract extension and Rob Pelinka gives him 5 for 345, it won't even make the news on SportsCenter. Because it's such a no-brainer, right? Right? I think we're entering a new era, people. I think we are. We're entering the era... And I don't know if it's good or bad. I have my thoughts. I do have thoughts on it that I'm going to get off. That if you're a contending team and you don't think your star is good enough, you might start seeing this more often. At this point, excuse me, now that Luka got traded, if fucking Nikola Jokic gets traded in 2 years, that's up now. Like, no one is safe anymore. This trade has officially destroyed all confidence that any of these guys in the NBA are going to be on the same team. Destroys that. Because in my mind, Luka, Jokic, Giannis felt like first team guys. And that's kind of, and I saw Kenny talk about this in his video, that's kind of the narrative with Europeans. Is that they feel privileged that an NBA team even took a chance on them in the first place. So they stay there for a long time. And this was true for most of NBA history. If you look at Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe isn't European, but he grew up in Italy. And the Lakers took a chance on him with the 15th pick. Excuse me, the 13th pick. Trading it with Charlotte. And he stayed there for 20 years. You look at Tim Duncan isn't European, but it's the same kind of idea. Right? Even though he was the number one pick. I think this trade officially killed that era. That era's done. If you were to tell me if Nostradamus came up and said, hey, Charlie, Nikola Jokic is going to be on the Houston Rockets in 2 years, I'd be like, huh, that's cool. That's unfathomable. Even like 3 years ago. I just think we're at a really exciting, for some people, this is bad, right? And I kind of want to go over both. Because for the people that love this, for the people that are saying, this is great for the game, this is it's great for them. Why? It's great because the league is now unpredictable, right? And for the people that like that shit, they like spontaneity. I'm rambling, but they're the type of people that make dinner plans at 6 p.m. to go out the next hour. Like, it's those kind of people, right? I'm of the opinion that unpredictability with stars, you're playing a dangerous game. And the reason I say that is because the NFL has the formula down perfectly. In the NFL, I could tell you right now, and the Super Bowl is about to be played next week, Chiefs and Eagles. I could tell you right now, in the 2025 NFL season, who's going to be in the top 5 NFL teams. I can tell you that right now. It's probably going to be Buffalo, Kansas City, Philly, Detroit, and the Eagles. I don't know if I said them already, but whatever, you get the point. You can generally kind of tell. And then there's the surprise teams, right? There's the Washingtons, there's the Tampa Bays, there's the Broncos, right? There's these surprise teams that in the preseason you would have said, they're probably winning 6 games, they go on to make the playoffs. There's normally a few of those every year in the NFL. But for the most part, it's the same people and the same teams making deep runs every single year. Patrick Mahomes is 1 week away from potentially winning a 3rd straight Super Bowl. We saw it with the Patriots. I'm of the mentality, and I don't want to be villainized because for saying, oh, Charlie, you like dynasties. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe I am a little bit. Continuity in your league is really important to driving not only viewership, but merchandising, all that stuff. The reason the NBA was so, people say the 90s were great, right? Older people, they reminisce with the 80s and 90s. Why? Because there was continuity. In the 80s, it was Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and then you had a couple bad boy years sprinkled in. You still had Michael Jordan. You still had the Sixer year in 83. You have a couple outliers sprinkled in. But for the most part, it was the Celtics and Lakers. They won 8 of the 10 championships in the 80s. The other 2 are won by Detroit and Philly. Right. Same thing with the 90s. The Bulls won 6. The other 4 were won by Detroit, Houston, and the Spurs. 2000s was ran by the Spurs and the Lakers. The Lakers and Spurs, I think, if I'm not mistaken, won 8 of the 10. Right? So, continuity in sport matters. And you're opening Pandora's box when, if Luka could get traded, anybody could get fucking traded at any moment, at any time. We could be sitting here tomorrow and fucking Giannis is a Brooklyn Net. And I think that's a dangerous game to play for your sports league. It at that point, it turns into like Barnum and Bailey, like Michael Malone said with the 10-minute quarter stuff. Like, at that point, it's a traveling circus, and we don't know what the hell to think on a nightly basis. It's the thing with like the injuries and stuff. Because some people don't know who's going to play from night to night, it hurts the product. Continuity. People like consistency. People don't want to admit it, but the ratings, and you look at any ratings, TV viewership, just look. People like to tell you they don't like dynasties. They do. Look at Nielsen. Look at those LeBron versus Golden State finals. highest viewership since the 90s. And people, and if you were to get your opinion off Instagram or Twitter, they would have had you think the country hated it. But they didn't. They didn't. And I know I'm going off a wild, historical tangent because I just think this stuff is fascinating. Because people are so narrow-minded in this trade and how people only talk about LeBron and Luka. I'm thinking about 10 years in the future. What does this mean? What does this mean for the league as a whole? Because a move like this, I heard on SportsCenter today, a move like this is a 10 on the Richter scale. And a 10 Richter scale earthquake, you feel the effects of that for decades. That's not a little earthquake. That earthquake destroys a city and takes 20 years to rebuild. So, this Luka Doncic trade, I don't know if I want to say this. You know what? Fuck it. This Luka Doncic trade will make a bigger impact on the NBA than LeBron going to Miami. That's my prediction. And the impact will be how teams construct their roster. Nico Harrison just told you Luka fucking Doncic wasn't safe. Anthony Davis wasn't safe in a deal like that. And it was reported that it was done in the dark, which is kind of insane to me because Anthony Davis is a great player, but I feel like you could have maybe got a better package. Just strictly quantity of assets. But getting back one of the top bigs in the league, probably top 2 big in the NBA right now that Joel Embiid's been dealing with injuries. He's probably the second best big in the league right now. Getting him back was going to be the best asset you could have got back. And the Lakers are a very unique team to trade with in that they have that second guy. So maybe they were really the only option. Who knows? More stuff is going to come out later. But I've been rambling for 18 minutes. I know some of my viewers, I'm recording this at like 3 a.m. It's going to be hard for me to sleep tonight. Because I'm thinking about the historical ramifications. And, obviously everyone's going to, like I said, everyone's going to talk about how LeBron and Luka, that's going to be the talking point that will exhaust me in 3 hours. But this trade is bigger than LeBron going to Miami, historically. I'll sign off now. Good night.